So this is the 2110 or 2120 hours GMT edition of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions of Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting only on the internet, not on satellite, not on terrestrial, and not on cable platforms. This is the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting under the banner of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions. Baby Angel Geronimo is the world's bestest baby angel Geronimo, the bestest witness, the most innocent, the purest creature, the healthiest baby angel Geronimo anywhere ever on the planet Earth. Baby angel Geronimo has witnessed today, Friday, the 3rd of March, 2023, some of the key evidence updating the evilness of the criminals that do the United Kingdom. And the sum total, the summary of the evidence shows that baby angel Geronimo was at the receiving end, first-hand recipient of the type of evil attacks on the innocents holding the positions at conspired and created against the baby angel Geronimo. One of the disclosures made by one of the ex-ministers in the corrupt evilness called Boris Johnson's regime, or Boris Johnson-fronted regime, cabal, spoke to Channel 4 News, and he disclosed that early on during the COVID pandemic that the UK government was claiming to be dealing with, the so-called government actually considered massacring, mass murdering all the kittens at home, the people's beloved kittens at home. Now, the word kittens, as I use it, includes all felines of all ages. Now, this is the evidence that baby angel Geronimo has witnessed absolute evilness in the outlook and attitude of the criminals calling themselves ministers, decision makers. That's one side. The other side is that there has been, during the day, no comment about that massacre plot against the baby kitten ones. The innocent ones are mainly the named, the kittens. And the domestic pets, including dogs and others. But there has been no comment from the subsidiary evilness called Keir Starmer. Because the evilness Keir Starmer, in the summer of 2021, allowed a statement to be issued by him endorsing the attack by DEFRA evilness against baby angel Geronimo. So it's not a coincidence that the evilness called Keir Starmer has been silent all day today, or the evilness called Wes Streeting. This criminal is supposed to be preparing to become the minister in the name of health. in a Starmer-fronted cabal that is supposed to be heading for victory at the next election, in connection with which Starmer has been featured himself in the news about the appointment or announcement of the appointment of Sue Gray as the chief of staff. Now, there have been various exchanges during the day about the alleged decision by Keir Starmer to appoint Sue Gray his chief of staff. Now, Sue Gray, of course, was the government employee, wrongly called civil servant. There is nothing civil about the bureaucracy, the UK bureaucracy. There is nothing civil and there is absolutely nothing serving. So, government employee, in that role, she was given the charge to investigate the evilness Boris Johnson's breaches of the COVID rules. And she took her time. And she actually didn't live to or live up to the expectation and hype that had been promoted about her. She actually caved into the main agenda of Boris Johnson's. And she even capitulated colleagues doing their own version of the cover-up and so on. So today, Friday, the 3rd of March 2023, there have been inputs from the police about the claim found in the WhatsApp exchanges, including the one that has been attributed to the evilness called Matt Hancock. He is reported to have said that the police should be made to enforce the COVID rules against ordinary people. Amazing, isn't it? That for more than 2 years, the criminal Boris Johnson is still being allowed any kind of excuse to delay for as long as he can the final verdict on him, which is actually that he broke rules. And he was bragging about it, he was boasting about it as he broke the rules. And the picture of the criminal Matt Hancock, which has been circulating, the picture of him dancing as he is jumping in a field to show how vigorously healthy he was during the onset of the COVID pandemic. But the facial expression of the Matt Hancock criminal is as vile and as contemptuous as the facial expression he puts on when he was being photographed by the ITV for their program in the jungle. Get me out of here or something. Or put by the criminal Matt Hancock gives the game away, that he has nothing but contempt for the lives of the people he exposed to massacre. and it has nothing but contempt for the feelings of those bereaved families and relations of the victims of the massacre that he centrally was involved in perpetrating, causing. Now, despite the fact that Oakeshott or Isabel Oakeshott be, she is full of episodes of lying and betraying and all the rest of it. The last edition, cachet 100,000 WhatsApp messages that she handed over to the Daily Telegraph group is absolutely long overdue. Whoever did it, whoever made this available to any platform in the media, has done an overdue service to the ordinary public. That is the point I'm making about Oakeshott. Never excusing her on all the Brexiteering things that she has done and all the attacks that she mounted on people who whatever exchanges will continue to take place between them against one another will not cover or sink the overwhelmingly vital confession evidence that the UK government was lying to the UK public and that the frontier of the UK government, Boris the evilness, the congenital liar Johnson, was the biggest liar of them all, followed by, of course, Matt Hancock. And that actually highlights what I have been saying for years. National Service the National Service has never been allowed to break the clutches of the various criminal gangs posing as professionals that have been suffocating the NHS because they've been busy fleecing it, taking all the resources out of it, and trying to undermine its efficiency and its relevance. and it did severe damage. And as if the damage that Hunt had done was not enough, bad enough, Crook, and Crook came in and he committed the massacre. Lack what is, that is to say, the mental faculties of the overwhelming majority of the residents are challenged and they are not able to make decisions for themselves. They're not able to diagnose the behavior of the so-called staff. So these people have been massacred for two reasons. One was that they were trapped there and they were treated as inmates, not as proper residents. Inmates as if they were there as a penalty for some kind of wrongs that they had done. They had done no wrong at all. And the fact that they were sacrificed, I'm not advocating death penalty, but that is the logical kind of statement in the narration. Prosecuted for the massacres. There should be. They both should be prosecuted. Be prosecuted, and any advice that came from the evilness called Christian evilness Middlemies at DEFRA should be made public. And I don't know whether the WhatsApp exchanges refer to DEFRA or Christian Middlemies, but the point is that she is the main criminal in DEFRA. Middlemies has been plotting to murder, mass murder, innocent animals for years. And she has been culling, that is, mass murdering thousands and thousands of innocent animals in this country. And as I said, there has been no response, publicly at least, that I can see during the day from Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer or West Streeting, these are the political murderers of the Labour Party. We shall continue on those in due course, of course. Let's check on the state of the recognition, if there is any recognition. I mean, it's a joke. The Wikipedia entry on Lutfur Rahman describes him as a British politician. Fuck Wikipedia. He's not a British politician. He's a brainwashed stooge and a fraudster and a very petty individual with no morality or ethics. I've just seen the Facebook post, apparently dated in 2021, and it's a Facebook account called law.with.n.rahman. Now, if it is the same person that I think it is, after Sikh, that is not the Supreme Court ruled on Friday that she had lost her case. Well, the Supreme Court didn't rule that she had lost her case. The Supreme Court refused her argument that she was a British citizen by birth. And then it goes on, judgment from UK's highest court is a critical and controversial test case of UK's policy to strip the citizenship of a Briton who went to join ISIS and are being detained by Syrian Kurdish groups without trial. Now, there is a lot of grammatical kind of confusion in that part. In addition to that, there is factual contradictions and constitutional law ignorance. Factual error is serious because how does law with N. Rahman know that Shamima Begum fled as a schoolgirl to join Islamic State? She didn't. According to the various accounts published in the mainstream media, all sourcing, I believe, Western spies posing as journalists and going to talk to her and interview her and all the rest of it over the last 4 calendar years since stupid Jabid took away her British by birth citizenship. All these criminals that have spoken to her and others who have kind of diagnosed what has been published and published with attributions to her as well, have acknowledged that she was trafficked. Trafficked and brainwashed by still unnamed brainwashers and traffickers. But she was trafficked. Now, the other thing is that Shamima Begum has been allegedly kind of agreed to marry this really weird and strange Dutchman who himself might be a spy. After speaking to him for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, how can that be possible? And as today, Friday, the 3rd of March 2023, Daily Express carries the column by Frederick Forsyth, says, Frederick Forsyth said that she went there when she was 15. And that is the point he makes. And the other thing is that in the Times today, that is again Friday, the 3rd of March 2023, there is a letter from a judge from somewhere in the country, not in London, but somewhere in the Midlands or in Nottingham or someplace, who is commenting on the current proposal to raise the age, childhood age, 18 and make it illegal for anyone under 18 to get married. And this letter writer in the Times says that Shamima Begum was only 15. So she was without any doubt a child when she went there. And she should not be treated as an adult, etc., etc. In any case, her citizenship by birth, what offense had she committed? It's a question that I have been asking. So let's go to the website or the portal, internet portal of the Tower Hamlets Corrupt the Crooks Council. And let's see if they've changed their stance, their criminal, ignorant, illegal stance about Shamima Begum. So we checked this word, Shamima, on their website, yes? And it says, your search for Shamima returned 0 results. Then let's go to the next query, search query. Shamima Begum, narrowing it to Shamima Begum, and see if they've changed the policy. We are searching that for 21:44 hours GMT on Friday, the 3rd of March 2023, and it says, your search for Shamima Begum returned 0 results. Then we do the other thing, that is safeguarding children duties. Let's say they may make it a plural, yeah? So it's a Shamima Begum and safeguarding children duties, if there is a document with that. And it says, your search for Shamima Begum and safeguarding children duties returned 0 results. So clearly, Tower Hamlets Council has not changed. Now let's go back to this what is this we'll go back to Nishat law with N Rahman, etc., etc., and we shall check again whether Now, the UK mainstream papers like the Fleet Street papers, including the Guardian, running the item about the United Kingdom Security Service, the Domestic Security Service, so called, otherwise called MI5. And the headline on the Guardian today says, families, that is plural, number of families, plural, fury at devastating MI5 failings in Manchester bombing. What that means is that the UK state and agencies like MI5 are not protecting UK citizens. And the fact that this bombing took place in Manchester is significant, isn't it? Because all the evidence that has been published shows that they could have, the security service could have done something to prevent the bombing, but they didn't. So, on this issue, there is this item, MI5 has blood on its hands. Victim's dad furious. Bomber not stopped. And this child is photographed, the child that died. Changing the subject and going to the dolphins, apparently dolphins talk like Britney Spears and Kim Kardashian. Dolphins hunt fish by communicating in husky tones that resemble the voices of Britney Spears and Kim Kardashian. Known as vocal fry in humans, the technique produces the lowest sounds by dragging out syllables. Britney fueled the craze by using it in her pronunciation of her debut hit, Baby One More Time. And now the vocal fry has been identified in dolphins and killer whales who use a similar vocal method during hunting. So we don't have anything on safeguarding children duties, and we don't have anything on Shamima Begum on the website of Hrs Council, which means that all the documents that they upload on the website about so-called council activities are very thoroughly checked so that they exclude any reference to the two things. One is Shamima Begum, and the other is the safeguarding children duties. Now, with safeguarding children duties, it's a legal duty or duties owed by the local council, every local council, to the children in the area. We have other ideas that we follow in terms of. Now let's check this spat between Hancock's menacing message on leaked text, menacing message against sent to Isabel Oakeshott at 1:30 in the morning. And we'll go back to this again later. Now let's go to the item about hundreds in town hall demonstration to hold 15% rise in council tax. Which, where did it happen? That is in the Evening No Standard yesterday. Okay, so let's go back to a bankrupt London borough failed to sign off its budgets last night after a mass demonstration against plans to hike council tax by a record 15%. Hundreds of people descended on Croydon's town hall to protest against the unfair proposals that would see around £235 added to the average household bill from April. Councillors voted down the increase by 37 votes to 34 following a 3.5 hour meeting. Now, this one is rare because this is a rare show of unity by the Labour Party, the Lib Dems, and the Green Party. All of them united in opposing the budget proposals by the Conservatives, and the Croydon has now become lumbered with the executive mayor. We shall come to discuss Croydon at length in another edition, not in this one, except to say that we have just mentioned the demonstration, which was the least that could happen, especially when the Croydon Council has been featured for a long time, for several years, as one of the most rotten boroughs. We shall talk about the rotten boroughs as well. Now, in the current issue of Private Eye, the fortnightly satirical magazine so called, there is a letter from George Galloway. And the letter is in protest against, in response to the piece in the previous issue of Private Eye that was headed No to George Galloway or No to Galloway. And the heading No to Galloway is in response to Galloway's appearance at a platform campaigning against NATO, saying no to NATO. And the reason why Galloway is involved in that is because the NATO opposes the Russian regime, and Galloway is paid by the Russians on the Russian television as a presenter. We shall talk about George Galloway and the various dishonest things that he does and he has been doing at length in another edition, because we did discuss him at length in the last edition, I think. Now, on Croydon, the private lie, which is Rotten Boroughs, has got a whole piece in this edition. And it is about the write-off that Croydon is asking Michael Gove, the cabinet minister for Department of Leveling Up, etc., that is actually supposedly in charge of the local councils. And the request by the Croydon Council to Michael Gove to allow £500 million of debt to be written off, and also for Croydon to be given the permission to raise council tax so that it can make up some of the hundreds of millions pounds of deficit and debts, etc., etc. But as this report says, the demonstrations and the unity of the three political parties meant that the increase in council tax was not passed. Now, one of the United Kingdom's most corrupt and corrupting councils linked careerists is a woman called Catherine Carswell. Catherine Carswell, I think for the last 2 years, in effect, has been in post, first as temporary and now as permanent chief executive in Croydon. Now, wherever Catherine Carswell goes, problems follow. Because Carswell is a member of the secretive, self-promoting corruptors of local communities. I mean, she's worth millions of pounds she has fleeced from various councils across the country. Now, in the current position in Croydon as chief executive, Carswell has sabotaged the local population in Croydon that has, forced into taking some kind of democratic demonstration and other actions, especially as the campaigning website called Inside Croydon has been playing a significant role in publishing internal Croydon Council evidence. But she has successfully delayed the disclosures and has sabotaged many of the attempted demonstrations and other things that legally they should have been able to take, the public that is, of Croydon, against the corrupt Croydon Council crooks in control. So she has been allowed to delay things, and I think it is only a matter of time before Catherine Carswell not only leaves Croydon but also is identified as one of the worst employees at the expense of councils and communities, who should be held to account for causing very severe anti democratic effects in wherever she has been. Let's check on the latest about Croydon generally today in the news. Okay, so this is the latest item from the BBC. That Croydon councillors vote against 15% council tax rise, which I read partly from another source. And here is the item from East London Lines. And I'm not going to discuss East London Lines itself in this edition. There is an item, Croydon bankruptcy report. Former cabinet member orders burning evidence. A report into the Croydon Council's bankruptcy has revealed details, including the order to destroy evidence, as the Labour-led council struggled to balance its books. The Penn report, put together by Richard Penn of the Local Government Association, was made fully public on February 24th. After long anticipation and its partial leak last year. Now, that long anticipation was caused by Catherine Carswell, although it doesn't say in this piece, but that's what happened. The 150-page report, backed up by statements from former council members, begins with the shocking statements from both former and current council members on how some former members lied about council finances. Surprise, surprise. Now, those council members were Labour controlling councillors, Labour councillors. One interviewee said, I have been told that the former cabinet member for finance and resources always wanted to paint the rosiest picture. They further added, I was aware he had been saying things like, don't tell them how bad it really is, or that it's getting worse. The same interview also pointed to the former cabinet member for finance and resources. Now, this is the kind of thing that this Eastern Lines does. It doesn't name the criminals. Why? One clue, this is done by a group of students at Goldsmith College. We'll talk about this another time. The same interview also pointed to the former cabinet member for finances and resources giving clear instructions to burn slides referencing the Section 114 notice, which bans all new spending when issued, excluding ongoing commitments and spending on the protection of vulnerable people. They said issuing a Section 114 notice was regarded as totally unacceptable and the ultimate bad news. And there is a long kind of account on this one about Croydon's ooze and Croydon's lies. Now, there is a piece in the Financial Times today, I'll come to that, about fraud in South Africa. Let's go to the Financial Times. And the Financial Times, and also we shall look at the Caitlin Moran page about Matt Hancock. Well, let's do it now because there is an absolutely appropriate photograph of the criminal Matt Hancock in that article. She says, one struggles to find a descriptor for Matt Hancock that is not insulting to genuine dingbats. Oakeshott above claims to have leaked the messages in the public interest, as she was worried the public inquiry would be a whitewash. Amazingly, Hancock's response to the leak was to send Oakeshott a private message saying she'd made a big mistake, which Oakeshott then also leaked, claiming it was menacing. Really, at this point, one struggles to find a descriptor for Hancock that is not insulting to genuine moon calves, rubes, jabronis, dingbats, and those who really were born yesterday. How could this man ever have been a minister? That's Caitlin Moran in the Times of Friday, the 3rd of March 2023. What did he think? Oakeshott. What did you think Oakeshott, who has a reputation for leaking, would do when he messaged her about leaking? Hancock has now gained a great accolade, that of the greatest living embodiment of the I never thought leopards would eat my face, sobs woman who voted for leopards eating people's faces party meme. So perhaps if and when this WhatsApp story dies down, and even when Hancock manages not to be charged, this is the one that I was looking for. When Hancock manages not to be charged with corporate manslaughter by gross negligence for the 27,000 care home deaths from COVID, this could be Greenhazel's first Matt Hancock based program. Now, let's correct the Caitlin Moran on the law. Individuals are not corporate manslaughter embodiment. So, if there is a corporate manslaughter charge, it has to be against the government. It cannot be against Matt Hancock. So, Caitlin Moran has to consult her lawyers and her tutors and editor and whatever before writing a stupid thing like that. And she makes a few jokes at Hancock's expense. And going back to the original BBC radio program called Hancock's Half Hour, featuring the original Hancock, the actor, Caitlin Moran says, and you could call the show, that is the show that Matt Hancock's television production company called Green Hazel, and you could call the show, Green Hazel company would produce Hancock's half-arsed hour. Now, people need to know about the colloquial use of English. Half-arsed is an insulting expression, of course. So we'll go to the South African corruption situation before we, if we have any time to look at the contents of this one. Now, what is the Sun today is talking about this MI5 kind of failures and betrayal, and Manchester bombing inquiry. 22 who should be alive. This is MI5 failed in Arena massacre. Now, this is the Sun. I mean, I don't know how to hold it. This is the way to hold it, and then it somehow manages to come on the camera. Now we are going to the South African, and the same issue, the MI5 betraying the Manchester Arena bombing victims, also on the I newspaper's front page. Is it coming on the camera? I newspaper. Just about. All right, let's go to the South African corruption. And there is a very good reason for going to the South African corruption. Because Remember, we talked about Gupta, another Gupta doing what a Gupta does, corrupting India. Well, further, India is already too corrupt to be corrupted anymore, but he is doing it, the impossible. Corrupting India even further, corrupting Singapore and other countries, and having a secret meeting in a hotel near Heathrow Airport and doing a hand delivery, handwritten note, promising that he will pay back the loans and whatever. Now, this is on page 25, page 21 of the Financial Times of Friday, the 3rd of March 2023. And it's called FTB Greed. And it's a byline to somebody called David Pilling. And the main subheading is the attempted poisoning of Andre de Ruyter is a dramatic example of how criminality has seeped into the state. His corporate hardships have also become an indictment of governance under the ANC. Scandal of ESCOM, the chief executive officer, and the cyanide-laced coffee. Criminal mafia masquerade as legitimate business forums. They come to your gate and basically threaten to shut down your mining operation. Andre de Ruyter, who was ousted as ESCOM chief executive last week, says power cuts are likely to get worse before they get better. He blames the country's power shortages on the ruling party, ANC. It's a little bit like a Venn diagram. There might be pure criminals and pure politicians. Then there is an area where the interests intersect. The Venn diagram. Look up the Venn diagram. Now, this is the first paragraph of the Financial Times page. Big read about the whole thing. Andre de Ruyter knew something was not right when he started to feel dizzy and nauseous after drinking a coffee. At the time, he was chief executive of ESCOM, South Africa's electricity utility. And to his surprise, he found himself forgetting simple words. We shall be ending this edition and start on the South African scandal in the next edition.